let's chat a little bit about Edogbo, Ciarán, because we spoke about Joe McCarthy and he's of a similar-ish mold. And again, they're pretty rare in Irish rugby. Edogbo is only 19. He's a product of Cove Pirates. I know they're very excited to see him doing so well, but I don't know, maybe because we've seen a good few young Munster players emerge in the last 12 to 18 months especially, and we're excited about many of them. The fact that the guy is literally 19 years old and is doing what he's doing might get lost a little bit. Like you add 2 years even of like SNC and just operating in that environment, and imagine the player who could be at 21 when he's still freakishly young. It's he is I think him, Ruan Quinn are probably especially exciting for Munster fans looking at the next 5, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, I think so. And even when the team was announced during the week, I think he was the one name that people were kind of singling out as being really excited to get another look at him, because he just looks like he's got something kind of different about him. And like even then in the first 3 or 4 minutes, he comes up with a big turnover and it gives the whole crowd a nice early lift. And these guys that are coming in, not just Dogbo, but across the board, these young players are just adding so much more. I know they've only just come back in off the Emergent Ireland tour, but they just seem to give the whole team a lift and the whole kind of crowd a lift. And I know Murray made the comparison here the other week with Munster and Manchester United, and I kind of had that in my head watching this game on Saturday. And I think if they manage this season properly, they could turn the situation into more of a almost Arsenal / Mikel Arteta type situation, where you've got a new, relatively unproven coaching team sort of learning on the job to a degree at one of the biggest clubs in Europe, where they're going to have to ride out a couple of sticky patches. But what Arsenal have shown over the last years is that if you invest in youth, you can eventually see that actually bond the club together again and kind of pay off in the long run, because like nothing engages supporters more than young homegrown talent. And supporters also tend to afford a bit more patience to a project if young players at the heart of it. And you could see that in the reaction to the Edogbo early turnover. Like they weren't just cheering the turnover, they were cheering the player who did it. You could sense it when Jack Crowley was getting on the ball, or when Tom Ahern came in off the bench and went on a couple of rampaging runs. Like when you look at where Munster are coming from and the sense of disconnect that we've spoken about previously over the last couple of seasons, like the Munster supporters are just crying for lads to get behind. And if Ahern or Edogbo or Crowley or Pat Campbell, who missed out the weekend, if they're getting opportunities, the supporters going to get like right behind them. And maybe that's the thing that can help ignite Munster's season and spark some life into things again, because it has felt a little off in the opening rounds. And again, like they weren't brilliant on Saturday, and there are plenty of areas to where they need to improve. But you just look at the reaction of the crowd at full time. Like it was such a roar for a game that had kind of looked sewn up for a while. And like they are going to have difficult days ahead, and this coming Saturday being one of those potentially. But these young players clearly have something about them, and if they look like they're ready to step up, I think it'll be interesting to see how Munster manage that this season. And to be fair to Rowntree, I think he is keen to blood these guys. He wasn't able to select a lot of them due to the Emerging Ireland Tour, but I even think last season, before he had kind of stepped into the top job, like I just always remember how highly he spoke of Josh Wycherley and how much Wycherley featured for Munster across last season. So I think if young players look up to it, like I think he'll back them, and I think that's the really exciting thing for Munster supporters at the moment.
Yeah, just on that, I think Munster, of all provinces or of the rugby people that I've met in Ireland, they follow people, you know what I mean? And if there has been a gap or a divide or between Cork, Waterford, Limerick, etc., I mean, if someone from their area makes it, they'll come back. It's better than any hashtag team of us or, you know, marketing campaign. And I felt that as well, watching it back and hearing the crowd and seeing these players, you know, just play with enthusiasm and no fear. And there is talent down there. There really is. And for all the stuff about private schools in Dublin and things like that, sure, they finish them off early, but you just need one generation. You know, you need 4 or 5 players to come through, and it changes the whole optics. So, and I think Rowntree, he's been there for 3 years. He's seen a kind of a conservative selection policy in action, and it didn't really bring them anywhere. So, and I think Prendy will Prendy and Dennis will be the same. They want to give young players a chance, and then they obviously. what's going to make the difference is if the training environment and the culture is right to keep, to improve on the areas that they're weak on. And I think I would trust the coaches there to do that. So I think Munster, and look, that's why some of us were frustrated with them, because there is talent there, but under the previous regime they weren't brought through. And I think Graham has definitely shown a willingness to do that. And yeah, they were hurt probably by the Emerging Ireland tour, but there was still enough talent in that group to go to the Dragons and win. The Dragons haven't won since, and to be better against Connacht. So hopefully the group that played last weekend, obviously, and if Earls comes back in and a few other players that come back from injury, they'll be very competitive this weekend.
Is it a bit unfair on Johan van Grant to say that those young players weren't brought through under him? Like, I do know what you mean in the sense that there was probably thematically conservatism to his selections over a longer sample size of time, if that makes sense. But over the last couple of years, like, a lot of these players that we're talking about did come through under his watch.
They came through, but they didn't get consistent game time. So just Tyed Prop, for example, I thought Salanoa looked great the other night, for whatever 30 minutes he got. We saw Knox against Connacht struggle. I think if Knox gets more game time over the last 2 seasons, he's ready this year. Salanoa, obviously he had some injuries, etc. But I would love to see him get more game time. I think a lot of times for the bigger games, I thought the selection was conservative, and then a player would play and not play again for ages. So yeah, okay, he definitely gave him their debut, but I don't think he did a brilliant job of giving him enough game time that we now have. The problem for Roundtree is, until those guys get 25 caps, Crowley gets 25 caps, etc. I think there's always going to be, learnings and areas to work on. And Roundtree's going to have to be the one who goes through that pain, I think.
So do you see a couple of guys there of that younger crop that we're speaking about, Birch, who Roundtree can say, you're my guy now in this position. If you're fit, it doesn't matter if you're 21 or if you've had 10, 15 caps, you're going to be my guy because I know that the upside is probably greater than the income. I think he has to. I think that's going to make or break him, because if rumors are true, there's not going to be an open checkbook next year to go out and bring in 4 or 5 players. So they're going to have to develop their own. And Munster always were good. We're good at doing that, and then bringing in 1 or 2 key guys from elsewhere to fill gaps or to give another level of expertise. So I think that they will have to develop their own. And Cosy, Ian Costello has obviously changed around the academy quite a bit as well. They're all trained together. They're doing the same kind of things that Leinster have done, which is smart. And obviously they're going to need a bit of time. But they're only going to get time if there's positive on the pitch as well. And there wasn't until Saturday night.